So guys, welcome back to the channel. I ended up actually getting an a37 5G under Metro by T-Mobile. They recently dropped the price to free for porting and $49.99 for a new line of service. So I got a new line of service just so I can test the phone out. So far, my experience with it has been pretty decent, but I will admit at $450, the regular price tag, this is a hard sell and I would never suggest it. But if you are getting it for cheaper, prepaid carriers, things like that, it is a respectable phone for what it does because it does use the Samsung UI. And let's be honest here, the Samsung UI is better than a lot of other Android devices. Not many people necessarily want to buy a phone straight out through the internet that's factory unlocked. They're not familiar with the company and they just want to use something that they understand and that they're familiar with. And this phone may fall in that category. Now, with that being said, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier because, I ramble. Timestamps in the description. Let's break down if this phone is decent, how well it works, what it can do, and what it's missing. Anyway, let's get right into this video. To be honest, I do find the cameras to be a little disappointing. Now, understand that I am coming from that $449 price tag. It's just not justifiable at this point. They didn't really tweak the camera much at all from last year's model, for being completely honest. And if you're wondering, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. Now, you have a 50 megapixel wide, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro. Now, I have it on the screen so you can go ahead and see the specifications of the camera itself and the breakdown of how it is. Yes, technically, I guess this is an upgrade from last year, but at the same time, these small, non-significant upgrades don't really warrant a price increase and a lack of features that this phone has overall. 4K, still no 60 frames in 4K in 2026, which is wild to me. You do have 60 frames in full HD if you change the settings, but at this point, 4K needs to be 60 frames. Most older devices like the Moto G Stylus, the original, had 4K 60 frames, and I don't know why they keep taking it away from these mid-tier phones, but you have to, if you're going to increase the price, I do believe that you have to give the people something worth the price increase, and Samsung has a loyal following. Because people love the software and what the phone offers, I think they're willing to deal with these minor inconveniences, but I don't find it to be minor. This is big boy money. We need better cameras. Give us the S22 camera or something in the A series, and I'll be fine with that because it's better than what we got. Now, the front camera is going to be 12 megapixels. It's a wide, up to 4K 30 frames. That's pretty much it. This pretty much suffers the same fate that last year's model phone suffers. So for people that know what I'm talking about, or if you don't, I'm going to break it down to you. Whenever you have objects too close to the camera, it does a really poor job with the autofocus. So for me, I unbox products on a regular basis, and I like using the phones that I own to show that I actually support the product. The problem here is that when you get too close and you show an object, it starts to get very blurry, and you kind of have to like move things out of the camera view in order for it to sharpen up. But Samsung always had that problem with the A series phones. It's like, I understand that they're trying to, give you something for a particular price tag. Yes, you have a glass back. Yes, you have a sharp screen. Yes, you have a nice body and it looks exactly like the flagship models for the most part. But that's not enough at this point. For $450, give us better camera, Samsung. Stop doing this to your customers. You have loyal people that love the A series. The A series, I believe, is actually the best selling series for the company because people want more affordable phones. And if you're going to keep increasing the prices, then you better start adding things into it so that you can just take over the market. Because at this point, Motorola and other brands are going to overpower Samsung eventually if they keep releasing the same phone every year with minor tweaks. We don't even have wireless charging yet, but I know I jumped different stuff. That's just me talking about my gripes. The camera is decent enough for the average person. If you're just taking photos of your family and videos and graduations and things like that, the camera is decent enough. As you can see, I give you different shots to give you an idea how it is. But at the end of the day, stop shipping the same camera each year with a minor tweak. Give us an actual incremental upgrade that makes sense. And I'll leave it at that. So let me just break this down this way. For the everyday person that is just using it for web browsing, watching videos, talking on the phone, text messages, etc., things like that, the phone is pretty decent in that regard. Now, unfortunately, the One UI 8.5 is pretty heavy on this device, and there are times where you're going to notice it being very sluggish. By sluggish, I mean if you swipe down the menu or if you switch between applications, sometimes the animations will freeze and won't pop up. That's because the UI is just really, really heavy, and it's meant for the flagship models, but they put this on the A series without really tweaking it and testing it out. So technically we're the test dummies. But if you happen to purchase this phone and you're used to the A series and you're fine with the A36 or the A35, then this is definitely an upgrade over the both of those. Now, when it comes to video games, I know everyone doesn't play video games, but the reason why I mention this, it's important because you want to make sure that the processor is strong enough to handle certain games. Now, you are getting an Exynos 1480 processor. The model that I have is 128 gigs with 6 gigs of RAM. There are different variants, but we're talking about the main one that you're getting inside the United States. That's the one that I have. It does launch with Android 16, and you're getting about 6 years worth of software updates and OS updates. So that's a good thing. That Samsung is really good in the OS updates and things like that. Personally, I don't keep a phone for that long, but what I will say is if you're playing games like Call of Duty Mobile, Warframe, Minecraft is playing in the background, I want to give you guys an example in the actual video, it's decent enough. It's not going to have the fluidity of an iPhone. It's not going to have the fluidity of a higher end device that's using a Snapdragon Gen 8 or anything like that. But it is decent enough where you can actually play Warframe and other games comfortably. Even if you have to tweak the settings and make it on low, you can do that and you can play games with other people without a problem. But again, always remember that this is a mid-tier chip. They're just increasing the prices. And, you know, you got to be a little bit harsher with these reviews like I'm doing right now, because when you're charging people grown-up prices for mid-tier phones, that's when, you know, you got to... I don't think it's worth the asking price, in my personal opinion. But again, with discounts, it probably is to that person that prefers the Samsung UI, because at the end of the day, there's a million phones that you can get that's going to be better specs-wise than this. But the question is, are they going to have better software experience? Most phones in the Android market don't have a better software experience than Samsung. So I do understand why this can be enticing to a lot of people. So again, just make sure that you research before you just spend your money, because the A37 honestly doesn't really differ that much from the A36 outside of a couple of tweaks here and there. But the performance technically is better, even if the percentage is low. So I want to show you guys something real fast. If you go to the settings right here, and we go to, actually, let me kind of go back and show you guys. Where is it? Sounds and vibration. We're going to go down to quality, sound quality and effects. There we go. Dolby Atmos. I actually turned that on this phone. Normally it's off, but you have the option of turning it on. You have auto, movie, music, voice actor. But the point is, you're probably wondering how the speaker is for this particular device. So let me actually show you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my YouTube studio. Let me move to the side. Now, there is a huge price difference, $69.99 regular. You can get these for cheaper on Amazon or on the Soundcore website if they have sales. And then over here, we have the Aero Clips, and you can find them on sale also a lot of times. But they are $169.99, so there's a $100 difference between the two. Now, I do want to say that I actually purchased a black pair at Ross for $50. So if you happen to go to your local Ross and you see them, you pick them up. It's pretty loud. It's a decent speaker. So for the people out there wondering if this is loud enough to be able to hear, it does a decent job with music. I will say that if you're listening to heavy rock or rap or certain music with a lot of instruments, it can sound a little muffled at times. Unfortunately, I can't play a sample for you guys because of the YouTube guidelines. But outside of that, it's not bad. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can go back and go to the music real fast. And let's see if I can play something for you guys. For example. It feels a little distorted at 100% volume. So yeah, it is a very loud speaker. You'll be able to hear it if you're in a room. If you're around other people, you can, I mean, I don't know why you would play a loudspeaker if you're around other people unless you're just watching a video and showing them something. But again, it's not a horrible speaker. Now, I'm not sure if it's dual speakers or anything like that, but to be honest with you, it's not going to outperform like the base iPhone, the SE model. I actually compared the two, and the SE model speakers are much better. Of course, that phone's a little bit more expensive, but again, it's like a $150 difference, and it shouldn't be that dramatic. But again, I normally use Bluetooth headsets with my devices, so it doesn't really bother me, but I figured you guys would want a sample of how good or how bad, get that glare out of the way, how good or bad the speakers actually are. Now, this phone doesn't have any type of wireless charging whatsoever, but it does have 45-watt wired charging. The battery is going to be 5,000 mAh. They haven't really increased it over the last couple years, but the fact that they haven't decreased it is a good thing. 5,000 pretty much is the standard for most prepaid devices around this price point anyway, and it's not too bad. You will have an all-day battery life depending on how you use your phone, but if you're a heavy user like me with editing, video games, and things like that, just make sure you bring your charger because you will be charging this phone maybe once or twice throughout the day. Now, when it comes to the charging speeds, you're looking at about, I would say, it's a little bit faster than last year's A36. I believe you get about 30 minutes, 60%. But if we're talking about a full charge, it's still an hour and 15 minutes for a full charge, which, on paper to most people is not going to look too bad, especially if you're coming from the iPhone camp or Samsung in general. But if you're ever used a Motorola device or a OnePlus device or something else, fast charging, this is actually pretty slow for the charging. But what I will say is that if you're playing games on your phone, like for me, I watch different movies and TV shows like Chosen on here while charging the device. It was pretty consistent with its charge speeds while in usage, which is a good thing. So overall, I don't think that anyone is going to really complain about the battery life for this device. It is an upgrade to last year in terms of charging speeds, but not that much dramatically. It's almost as if you have the same phone for last year in that regard. Just like its predecessor, the Samsung A37 currently has two types of biometrics. One is going to be the fingerprint scanner, and the other one is going to be the face unlock. Now, and if you're trying to use your Tap Pay, your Samsung wallet, or your Google wallet, for example, you may need to verify your information through the actual fingerprint scanner. They do not allow for the face unlock to be used as a biometric in order to actually make purchases or to verify information. So for me, if you're using Cash App, transferring money, or if you're using Wisely or some other service like Google Play, the fingerprint scanner is what you're basically going to use in order to sign in into any of those applications to verify your passwords when the time comes. It's pretty accurate for the most part. Personally, I do like the other brand fingerprints a little bit better because they are more responsive, but this one does work well enough. Well enough, I mean, $450 should be a little bit better than well enough, but it is decent for what it does, and I think that anyone that uses it will be fine. So just like last year's model, you are still getting a Super AMOLED screen, and everyone knows that the Samsung screens look really sharp, really beautiful, and they're vivid at 120 Hertz. Now, the peak brightness is going to be 1900. So if you're going outside in the summertime or in just brightness in general, you will be able to actually see your screen comfortably. But if you're going to something like the beach where direct sunlight is going to be on your phone, then you may have a little harder time seeing it. But again, the sharpness is perfectly fine in that regard. The screen is still 6.7 inches, 86.5 screen to body ratio. If you look at the bezels, it's a little thick, but for me, I don't really care about the bezels like that. I think we've reached a point in technology where it's like, when you're buying mid-tier devices, especially in the United States or these prepaid markets, you are compromising something with these phones. Now, it does have 1080 by 2340 pixels on the screen, 385 for the PPI for people that need to know that. The aspect ratio is going to be 19.5:9. I'll put that for the ratio for the screen. And for the protection, Corning Gorilla Glass Victus Plus Mohs Level 5. Now, in my personal experience with the screen, I haven't had any issues with dead touches. It works very, very well. And that's the one thing Samsung gets right. The screen is sharp, it's vivid. You do have the option of going into the display and just changing some of the settings to really customize it the way that you want to. So if you're getting this device and you're expecting that quality that Samsung has normally in their devices, the screen definitely will deliver. So for the conclusion, guys, I do want to say this before I give my personal opinion. I understand that this phone is not for the person that wants a flagship device. This is for the person that wants the Samsung experience. They want a sharp screen. They want a good enough camera. They want a decent battery life. They don't care about wireless charging, which, even when I did have wireless charging on my devices, I didn't really use it, to be honest with you. From time to time I did, but I prefer wired charging anyway. It would have been nice if they had wireless charging. But this device overall is not bad for what it does. The problem is that phones are getting more and more expensive. Companies know what their customer base wants based on analytics and things. That's why they feel comfortable with raising the price. Now, personally, I wouldn't ever dare to pay $450 for this device. It is absolutely not worth it. But if you're a person that's trading in your old device and you may get money off for the next one, then this is probably a device that's decent for you. But if you're coming from a prepaid carrier like me, Metro by T-Mobile, affordable carrier, the phone is going to cost you like 50 bucks if you get a new line of service. And if you're porting, it's going to be absolutely free. So with those type of deals, it is a decent phone. And even if you compare it to the Moto devices, the Next Paper devices, this still outperforms them in certain categories. Like certain games run better on the Samsung device. When it comes to the UI, it is decent. Even though One UI 8.5 is a little sluggish on this particular phone, it still gets the Samsung software. So you'll have years of Samsung support. So Samsung support. You'll get years of software and iOS OS support on the device. Most people just want something so that it can just keep getting, I don't know what to say, man. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. I don't want to record this part over again. It's decent enough for what it does. It would be nice if the price tag was about $299, and I would say, go for it. But at 400 or something, my suggestion is just wait for a sale, Amazon, Samsung sale, buy it when it's cheaper. These phones don't hold value very long. So my suggestion is just be patient. Get it cheaper like I did. I waited for that $200 something price tag to drop for my carrier, and as soon as it dropped to $49, I went to the store the next day and bought it so that I could review it and let you know how I feel about the phone. And hopefully this review will be helpful to you. Anyway, like and subscribe like always, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care, peace, God bless, and I am out.